We kept meeting in Bernie Lown's living room, and it was an exhilarating time because we were kind of making it up on the fly. You know, there was no script. By 1985, we were awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace. As is often the case with the Nobel Prize, they're not really rewarding you for what you've already done. They're sending a message. This is something that the Nobel Committee thinks is very important.
And we have to find new ways to reach out. And the Nobel is laying down a gauntlet for us, that we physicians have to do more.
Dr. Lown, I think, had a mix of emotions at that time. It was, first of all, emotionally charged because his friend, Dr. Chazov, was being criticized in the press. And it was emotionally charged because we almost had a person die right in front of us.
Repeat my question. Do you regret or deplore that you signed the appeal against Sakharov in 1973?
Пресс-конференция движения.
This is not a personal conference of mine, but a press conference of the movement.
In the midst of all of this, in the front row, suddenly this guy keels over and looks like sudden cardiac death. We were doing the resuscitation and he began to come around a little bit, but he really looked like he was dying. It was important to not let it end on that note. We had to complete what we were there for.
You know, when the crisis comes, Soviet and American cardiologists cooperate. And this crisis we face now in a big way for all humankind. And this is a very strange parable that shows we forget our ideology, we forget our differences. We do not care whether it's a Russian or American.
You know, it shows you how deeply caring, I think, Lown really was, that this affected him on all of those levels. Lo and behold, the guy made it. He lived. As a matter of fact, he recovered, and then some of our doctors went to visit him in the hospital after he recovered from this heart attack. And for years after that, Lev Novikov would give talks about how great IPPNW was. I don't know if he agreed with our politics, but he certainly agreed with our resuscitation attempts.
He's a man of the world who has dedicated his life to service his patients and to the happiness of entire mankind.
One of the impressive things about Dr. Lown is that he's committed not just to patients in front of him, but to people all around the world, wherever they may be.
Satellite started back before there was the World Wide Web. Satellite started before a lot of us here in the United States knew anything about internet or interconnectivity. We were the first email providers in Africa. This is where Dr. Lown was really out of the cutting edge. Put up a satellite, set up some ground stations in Africa, and expect people to start communicating with each other. And his whole premise was we can use satellites for peace. We don't have to have Star Wars. We can make the world a better place using the same technology. And in fact, he proved that it was true.
This is a model that offers hope for the larger part of the world where the resources are scarce, but the problems are just as significant.
As much as Dr. Lown is a pioneer, his vision for satellite is that it should be pioneering. You know, I'm comfortable in saying we're true to his vision and we're doing the work that he really started this organization to do.
I don't think it's possible to see into the future. It's only possible to hope for the future, and it's possible to act for the future in the hopes that then you will see something.
Really, action has always been a hallmark of everything that Bernard does. It seemed like particularly small people, individuals, academics could really do nothing. And yet he said something can be done.
You think you've reached your limit in terms of what's possible to do, and he somehow helps reach into other people and just brings out even more energy.
He's just like a force of nature.
Nobody in a position like Bernie's can succeed without a very close person. You need somebody who's really your best friend.
Louise Lown is a force in and of herself.
Without Louise Lown, we wouldn't have a Bernard Lown.
Well, she's really his secret weapon, and I give her a lot of the credit.
I think that Dr. and Mrs. Lown are one of the great untold love stories, and she is a human rights activist in her own right. They just seem to complement each other perfectly.
It's a package. They come together.
You know, in the Catholic faith, we have saints, you know, and I'd say Louise Lown is a saint.
She's a saint because she puts up with Bernie.
In 1978, outside this front door, Louise and I were standing on the grounds. It was a late spring afternoon, and I was standing there, and suddenly, out of a clear blue, I say, I have an answer. Soviet doctors and American doctors have to create a compact. She says, I mean, I didn't think she says, are you smoking pot? But something to that effect. The night before, Gorbachev asked me to address the forum. Was totally unprepared, I thought. So at 12 midnight, Louise and I sat down, and I was dictating to her, and I was tired and irritable, and she was patient as a saint. The more irritable I got, the more tranquil she became.
It is he who got the Nobel Prize, and it is he who was on TV, and it is he who writes the papers. But it is so apparent that it would have been very hard to be Bernard if somebody wasn't there being Louise with him.
If you can get sort of a critical mass of interested, energetic, hardworking physicians who really believe in the absolute necessity of doing something about the cause, then you can have success.
Even if Dr. Lown is not leading the charge, that those of us who've been influenced by his example will do our part to carry on the mission.
And I think it's a critical time that his vision and his approach be preserved.
We have an endless role as long as we understand our mission.
The best way to pay tribute to Dr. Lown is to join him.
That's how you pay tribute to them, by sending a message that we heard you loud and clear, and we're going to keep that mission alive indefinitely.